Probably one of the best origin stories we've gotten in a Marvel movie. This felt very much to me like a classic Marvel formula.
Everyone's talking about Goose, and rightfully so.
Oh my god.
The cat
That cat.
is a delight. I could have used more Goose, to be honest, but that's me speaking as a cat guy.
Goose plays a huge role. Don't want to get into too many spoilers there, but... And
That's the biggest spoiler there is!
That's nothing. This is one of the few Marvel movies that doesn't take place in modern day. It takes place in the 90s, and they're constantly reminding you that it's like super nostalgic. The songs, the video games, there's like a Fonzie lunchbox for some reason. There's like koosh balls, Nerf guns.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
Fresh
name
Prince.
dropped. We're finally at a point where 90s nostalgia is kind of going mainstream.
You have to let go of the past.
I don't remember my past.
Brie Larson was excellent. She,
Great
as
actress.
everyone has seen, like all over the trailers, that there's this big idea of identity that's kind of at the heart of the movie, kind of like portraying a person that has all this internal conflict, who is, yes, super duper powerful, but she also doesn't know what the scope of her power is, or like what she's truly capable of. And that's like as a hero, but also just as strictly what are her powers. And her kind of trying to define who and what she is plays a huge part in like the narrative arc. And the movie does a lot of other things with identity that like you're gonna be surprised. Like I won't spoil like who the heck Jude Law is, but anyone who's been following Captain Marvel over the last few months knows that
It's a
he's
big
been
mystery.
It's a big mystery because he's been labeled as Marvel, Jan Rog, maybe someone different. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? You really don't know. And the same goes for like a few other people that you see, especially when Skrulls, shape-shifting alien invaders are a big part of this. You never know if the character you're looking at on screen is going to be
Yeah.
an actual human or they
No, I mean, they're really thrusting us into this big, huge intergalactic war that's been going on for a long time, and you think one side is good, maybe at the end you learn that it's more complicated than that. You know, they're dropping it into a much bigger story. It's bigger than anything we've really seen in Marvel before.
It's the perfect movie for this contemporary Marvel era where it kind of gives a little bit of everything.
I agree. I also thought Nick Fury, Samuel Jackson, was really great in this. He looks really young, it's awesome. And also there's like a very cool buddy cop dynamic between Brie and Samuel Jackson. They're like on the run the whole time. You just have this like really funny back and forth that's a lot of fun to watch.
Name a detail so bizarre a scroll could never fabricate it.
A toast is cut diagonally, I can't eat it. You didn't need that, did you?
No, I didn't, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, your turn. Prove you're not a scroll.
Sometimes in other Marvel movies, to me, it can kind of feel a little forced. Like, I think that Star-Lord's whole shtick is like kind of annoying, and like Tony Stark can just be like really sassy and like quippy, and it's kind of contrived at times. But I think Carol Danvers and like Nick Fury, they have this like banter.
A lot of
but
these
it's
Marvel movies,
honest.
the quips feel like forced, but this feels very natural. Like she just has this sense of humor
Yeah,
as part of her character. I think a lot of people criticize other Marvel movies for being just like quip factories, and this doesn't feel like that. It feels like a movie that's naturally funny, but also has some really dramatic moments that you feel like are elevating it beyond what you usually get. Deep topic. I think there's been a lot of disputes and arguments over how political this movie is. I don't think it's very political at all. I think it's a pretty straightforward superhero story. The fact that a woman is the main character feels like a big deal for Marvel because this is the first time they've done that in 10 years. But as a movie, it feels like a pretty standard, good movie.
In no real way are like gender roles even like acknowledged. Like there's just a lot of different people who in their own rights are super badass, and Carol happens to be like the most powerful being in the universe now, but her, I don't know, the aspect of her character that makes her a woman isn't necessarily given too much attention. Like you do have there's like one scene with like one guy
There's a
who
couple
kind of
moments.
like,
There's like a
why
guy
don't
who
you
makes
smile, baby?
There's like a weird cockpit joke earlier, which is like kind of gross, but
It
yeah.
doesn't shy away from it. Like it is a very honest portrayal of like she was in the Air Force, and they do talk about how like women in the Air Force in the late 80s, early 90s, they couldn't fly in combat, which was a real life thing that the film acknowledged and kind of worked it into the story. But I think that it does have a kind of universal appeal. Like Captain Marvel, it's a great story, and I think that it is going to be necessary viewing.
If you're a Marvel fan and you like those movies, you're going to enjoy this one. Don't worry about it being overly political. It's just a good movie. If you're a more casual fan, you might be able to skip this. I think they're probably going to set you right into Avengers Endgame anyway, and if you don't feel like you necessarily want to see every movie, you don't need to see this, but I don't think there's really a good reason to skip it.
I would disagree and say don't skip it. I liked it enough that I think it's like pretty much worth seeing. Like there's especially in the broader scheme of things, it talks a lot about like what was the state of the MCU in the 90s and like what was the state of Shield. You get some really neat tidbits about Nick Fury's kind of origin story and some other side characters that have been in the MCU. And I just think I really enjoyed it. Like the acting was, I think, better than many of the Marvel movies.
Oh, easily. Maybe if you're tired of the Marvel movies, this will be a breath of fresh air and you'll enjoy it. And if you love those movies, you're still going to love this one. So I think...
Absolutely, yeah.
Does it set up in-game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hugely.
Yeah.
I'll say this, stick around for the post-credits.
You get the usual thing that they've been doing now with these movies is you get like kind of a very stylistic like intro credits, so to speak. So as soon as that's done, you get a very crucial mid-credit scene, and then you go through all of the traditional credits, and then there's one at the very, very end.
Stay tuned for way more. Later this week, we'll spoil everything post-credits, how it sets up Endgame, Captain Marvel's origins, everything you want to know we're going to talk about.